Hello, everyone. In today's lecture, we introduce the Bitcoin on-chain analysis and matrix.
Welcome to Stony Finance Lab channel.
Okay, so what is the Bitcoin on-chain analytics, right? So because Bitcoin and any public blockchain data are publicly available, so we know the entire history of transactions that occur on the chain. If we know the address of certain wallets, and we know the balances in the transaction history of the wallets. So basically, it's quite transparent. Although we may not know who's holding each wallet, but sometimes large institutions would disclose the address of the wallets so we can obtain additional information about their activities. So this kind of blockchain data, on-chain data, allows us to obtain a rich set of on-chain matrix to measure the user behavior and transaction activities. Okay, the three biggest websites so far I've been using to get Bitcoin on-chain matrix includes the Blockchain.com. They have a tab, which is Explore. If you click on the tab, and you will see some of the on-chain statistics of Bitcoin. A second website I use is Glassnode.com, which provides the on-chain matrix across various different categories, which I'm going to discuss later. And the third one is Xun Analytics, which provides a coding platform for you to use SQL to conduct on-chain analysis of major cryptocurrencies. So that becomes more popular as well. And if you want to learn more on-chain matrix information and the knowledge and updates, and here are three main sources for me to obtain my information, which includes the YouTube channel from Glassnode, and also the YouTube channel of Game of Trades, which includes cryptocurrency analysis and the macroeconomic analysis. The last one, which is the Blockware Intelligence, which is a newsletter related to on-chain analysis of Bitcoin. So now I want to give you examples from blockchain.com and from Glassnode to show you what do I mean by on-chain matrix or on-chain analytics of Bitcoin. So they offer more than Bitcoin on-chain analysis, but here in this lecture, I'm focusing on Bitcoin statistics. Okay, so if you go to blockchain.com Explorer, and there's various statistics based on the on-chain analysis. For instance, you would know the volume, the exchange traded volume of Bitcoin, and also you would know some of the block details, such as the block size, average block size, the transaction per block, and average payments per block. So this is the 3 months charts for each. And also they provide information about the miners, such as the total hash rate, the hash rate distribution, network difficulty, the miners' revenue, the total transaction fees, and things like that, right? So using those data, we are able to recover a lot of detailed information for a very specific segment of the blockchain. And also they have information about the network activity, for instance, how many unique wallet addresses used, and the transaction per day, confirmed payments per day, transaction rates per second, etc. Okay? The last one is market signal, right? I'm going to spend some time talking about market signal in the next few slides. However, here you can see some of the important market signal is MVRV, which is the market value to realize the value. And I'll give you definition later when I talk about the slide. Also the network value relative to the transaction and network value relative to transaction signals, right? So some of the major market signals to indicate the market condition relative to the underlying fundamental measures. And moving to Glassnode. Glassnode is a relatively new website, which with much richer set of on-chain metrics on Bitcoin as well as other major cryptocurrencies. So they separate their on-chain metrics into many categories, with the major ones here, right? So they have a bunch of indicators to show you the address activity, to show you the derivative use on various exchange, and also the exchange inflow, outflow, the institutional's behavior, and the long-term versus short-term wallets behavior. They also have something we showed a market indicator, market activity, and also on transactions, etc. Right. So if you think a little bit deeply, on-chain metrics essentially give you, offer you the granular data at the wallet transaction level. So despite you don't know who's holding which wallet, but if you treat one wallet as one user, essentially you know the detailed transaction history of all the users on the blockchain, right? So using those data, we can help to understand, for instance, a lot of questions like what's the adoption rate of this blockchain or this cryptocurrency? What's the user behavior on chain? What are the technical indicators tell us about the current and the future condition of the market? And what is the leverage investors or traders have been using to trade the cryptocurrency? And what's the direction and size of the flow of funds in and out of exchanges and so on and so forth? Right, so just give you some example of those matrices, and I want to just bring up several I have seen people use quite frequently. I feel like it's relatively easier to understand, just to give you some examples. Okay, so the first example is from the address activity. For instance, this chart tells you the this orange line tells you the number of active addresses daily, right? And the number of unique addresses that were active in the network, okay, either as a sender or receiver of the cryptocurrency of Bitcoin. So this is for Bitcoin, right? So this is basically tell you to some extent the adoption, right? How widely Bitcoin has been adopted, right? Because you look at the number of addresses, it has been increasing tremendously over the last decade, meaning more and more people are using Bitcoin. The second example is also from the address activity. For instance, this one tells you the number of active addresses with balance over 1,000 coin, right? So in this case, the number of address with $1,000 Bitcoin, 1,000 Bitcoin, which is, if you times today's price, is $6 million. So we can call those wallets behind them, the investors or the token holders, the whales, right? The Bitcoin whales, because they hold roughly $6 million or more Bitcoin, right? You can see that the number of whales in this measure has been trending up, which means that many of the whales are not really selling off down their number of crypto Bitcoin. Instead, actually we see more and more whales that accumulating large size of Bitcoin. Right, so this is the orange line relative to the gray line, which is the Bitcoin price. The third example is the total transfer volume to exchange, right? So this is under the category for exchanges, right? So this is basically the summation of the total amount of coins transferred to exchange addresses. Of course, this requires the on-chain analyst to know what addresses belong to exchanges. So when there are a lot of coins transferred into the exchange, it means that they are ready for liquidation, at least for attempted liquidation. So when those those number of the volume goes up, but that's tend to when the selling pressure is the highest, right? So this is basically telling you how high or low the selling pressure is, because a lot of liquidity suppliers rushed to the exchange with their tokens. Okay, so there's many other similar metrics that measure different aspects of the flow in and out of exchanges, which I find it to be very useful. Another example is from the category of institution, right? So for instance, because it is known that which address belongs to Grayscale, right? Grayscale is the largest crypto holding company of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency in the United States as an institution. So this one basically tells how the amount of Bitcoin holdings of Grayscale GBTC, right? If you purchase GBTC and the underlying holding of GBTC share is the Bitcoin spot, right? The actual Bitcoin, you can see that starting from February, and the amount of Bitcoin holdings of GBTC has been declining, but still just by a small margin, but still GBTC holds over 600,000 Bitcoin, right? This is because GBTC later on experienced price discount. So Grayscale has been liquidating GBTC to repurchase, liquidating Bitcoin to repurchase GBTC to close the discount relative to the par, right? In contrast, if you look at the wallet belonging to the Purpose Bitcoin, which is the Canadian-based Bitcoin ETF that has gained popularity in the last few months, that the number of Bitcoin holdings of Purpose has been trending up, right? So this is because the Purpose is in the ETF. It has no discount relative to the par, so that some major investors has switched from buying GBTC to buying Purpose Bitcoin ETF. The sixth example is from the category of profit versus loss. So this is something we have seen previously, which is the realized profits to value ratio, the RPV ratio, which is defined as the ratio of the realized profits and realized market cap, right? So basically this is compared the profit taking on the market with its overall cost basis on the dollar to dollar basis, right? So when you see this measure goes up, it means a lot of existing wallet, right? They have been taking profit relative to their cost base, right? So when Bitcoin prices rise, and you will see more and more investors in taking profit because they have gains in their wallets. And this metric was first invented or proposed by ARK Invest and is now become a standard technical indicator. The next example is from market indicator category. This example shows that the chart for stock to flow ratio. Here, stock to flow is a popular model that's created by Plan B, who is a strategist in Bitcoin. And this is his pseudonym. And he accounts for the scarcity of a commodity in driving the value of the commodity. So the stock to flow is defined as the ratio of the current stock of the commodity, which is in the case of Bitcoin, the total circulating supply over the flow of the new production of the Bitcoin, which is the newly mined Bitcoins. So this is highly predictable because we know that for every 4 years, Bitcoin reward is halved. So we know the newly mined Bitcoin for every single period. So he shows that Bitcoin price has historically followed the stock to flow ratio. So it can be a measure of the fundamental value of Bitcoin for assessing the current relative over and undervaluation of the price relative to its fundamental. So this is the gray line shows the stock flow model predicted Bitcoin price. And the color line here shows the actual Bitcoin prices, and with different colors indicating different stage of the cycle. So you're welcome to check out the post by Plan B. To the eighth one, which is from the ratio category, which is MVRV ratio. And you have seen this one when we talk about the Blockchain.com. And so the MVRV is the market value of Bitcoin over the realized value of Bitcoin, right? So the market value tells you based on the current market price, what's the total value of Bitcoin based on the mined tokens. And over the realized cap, the realized cap is basically the cost base of the active wallets at which they have accumulated the token, right? So this is the indicator proposed by two researcher and to measure the relative valuation of the cryptocurrency, right? And they hypothesize that when this ratio is really high, like 3.7 above, it's an indication of overvaluation. So it means that people are holding a lot of capital gains relative to their cost base. But when this ratio is below 1, it's an indication of undervaluation because it says people on average have been in the loss domain relative to their cost base. Okay, so there are probably like over hundreds of, if not hundreds, over 100, if not hundreds of matrices that have been developed under Glassnode for different tier of data. And I think many of those matrices can be very useful to inform us the current market condition and potentially future movements of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So I encourage you to check out this website and also encourage you to check out our website at Stony Finance Lab.org under blockchain and cryptocurrency. And we have a bunch of research resources for you to learn about blockchain and cryptocurrency and other related topic. Okay, so that's all my talk today. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.